What truly makes a story compelling? At first, things like plot or structure may come to mind, but what actually makes a narrative unforgettable is this: observing the transformation of the character in the story. Yes, a person's transformation is an extremely rare event, but when that person finds themselves under certain conditions, under pressure, change becomes inevitable. The series Breaking Bad is one of the productions that conveys this character transformation in the most masterful way. The process of a man who appears ordinary, even timid, gradually transforming into one of the most ruthless and cruel figures of the underworld is portrayed with extraordinary subtlety that requires patience and attention. And as we watch this narrative, there's a question constantly spinning in our minds. How is this possible? How can a person who appears harmless, even fragile from the outside, turn into someone merciless and brutal? What psychological reasons change him this much? And how do the emotions he suppressed for years, how come to the surface after this transformation? The story begins by telling the life of the character Walter White, a high school chemistry teacher. This man lives with his wife and son and is someone we could describe as docile and even withdrawn. In addition to all this, he is struggling with serious financial difficulties. Unable to support his family with a teacher's salary, Walter takes on any job he can find, even working at a car wash to earn extra income. Alongside all these financial hardships, he is not someone who receives much respect socially either. Not only is he not taken seriously by the students in his own class, but at times he even becomes the subject of mockery in the classroom. The situation within the family is not much different. Walter's brother-in-law, Hank, who has a confident and strong personality, frequently belittles Walter and does not take him very seriously. His wife Skylar at times behaves in ways that make Walter feel as though he is not strong enough. And on top of this life which we could call problematic learning, a devastating truth about himself becomes his breaking point.
Yes. Lung cancer. Inoperable.
Walter learns that he has cancer. The doctor tells him he has little time left. A person who realizes that they are approaching the end of their life will inevitably make radical decisions to change it. After thinking deeply about this situation, Walter sets himself a difficult goal. During the remainder of his life, he will accumulate as much money as he can leave behind for his family. Walter White is aware that he cannot accumulate such money with a teacher's salary, and for this reason he chooses a dark path. He will use his knowledge of chemistry to begin producing drugs, and in order to market the product he produces, he makes an agreement with his former student Jesse, who knows the streets well. As the story progresses and this duo grows in their business, concepts such as ambition, arrogance, desire for control, and hunger for power are added to the narrative. As the series advances, as the harmless and gentlemanly teacher comes into contact with the underworld and his self-confidence gradually increases, we witness him step by step transform into a ruthless criminal, a tyrant, even a killer. Walter White's character transformation contains extremely intriguing philosophical concepts. And the first of those layers, the point where the whole story actually begins, death. We see that Walter White learning that he has cancer and will die within a few months becomes the first and most fundamental motivation that sets him into motion. After all, when a person feels that they are approaching the end of their life, they lose the chance to remain as they were. The French writer and thinker Albert Camus enters the scene exactly at this point. According to Camus, human beings are creatures who insist on producing meaning in a universe that exists absurdly and randomly, and the event called death allows us to see this absurdity in the clearest way. When we witness someone dying, questions such as for what purpose and where did they go occupy our minds, and the absence of answers to these questions causes a heavy mental pain. According to Camus, despite all the fear that death carries, if a person constantly reminds themselves of death and lives with the awareness that they will one day die, this creates a strange kind of liberation. A person who truly accepts death finds within themselves the courage to step outside the rules imposed on them by society. However, when we examine this reality through real-life examples, we see that every person who confronts their mortality makes different kinds of decisions. For example, the founder of Apple and technology pioneer Steve Jobs completely changed his perspective on life when he learned that he had pancreatic cancer. He made extremely critical decisions about what was unnecessary and what was essential in his life. Death is life's greatest invention, because it clears out the old and makes way for the new, he said. He decided to devote his remaining time to work that would leave an impact on people's lives, to things he sincerely believed were truly important. Therefore, among people who are aware that they will die, there is a distinction: those who choose action and those who remain inaction. If we return to Walter, we can see that he too chose action, like Steve Jobs. But when compared to Jobs' choice, this action is not at the same level of innocence. As the story progresses, we witness that Walter earns the money he dreams of through drug production. However, even though the money he earns reaches amounts that could support his family for many years, Walter does not leave the drug business. He continues. At first, we think he entered this dark business to leave money for his family. So, when the money he earned reaches a sufficient amount, why does he not leave everything behind and return to his family? Why does he insistently want to continue such a dangerous and dark business? Walter's contradiction reveals this. Walter White is very different from the person we thought he was from the very beginning. From this point in the story, we understand that this character still has aspects that can be described as unilluminated and ambiguous. At first glance, Breaking Bad may appear to be an ordinary crime series, but we can see that within this story there are many metaphors and symbolic layers. The most explicit and prominent of these layers is the alias that Walter White uses in the underworld, Heisenberg. Even if we think this name is random for the story, it is actually a carefully chosen one. Werner Heisenberg is one of the most important figures in quantum physics, and he bears remarkable similarities to the character of Walter. The physicist Heisenberg, who lost his life to cancer, was involved in the scientific projects carried out by the Nazis, and was therefore associated not with the bright side of science, but with its dark side, which reveals his similarity to Walter. Like him, Walter also used his scientific knowledge on the dark side. But the real point we must focus on is a principle that Heisenberg introduced to quantum mechanics, because the similarity between this concept and Walter White is extremely striking. The concept in question is one of the cornerstones of quantum mechanics, the uncertainty principle. To better understand this principle, let us consider a particle. This particle has both a velocity and a position. According to this principle, it is not possible to determine both the position and the velocity of a particle with absolute certainty at the same time. The more precisely you try to measure one, the more the other becomes blurred. If we determine the particle's position precisely, its velocity begins to become uncertain. If we know its velocity, its position becomes blurred. For this reason, according to this principle, a particle does not possess a single nature. It behaves both like a wave and like a particle, and we understand that the nature of the particle has an uncertain structure. Which one it is depends on how you observe it. Walter White, just like a particle, has a dual nature. On one side stands Walter, the family man with a gentlemanly character. On the other side stands Heisenberg, the ruthless drug lord. They share the same body, but they are opposites of one another. The more he focuses on the Heisenberg side, the more the compassionate family father identity becomes uncertain. And at a certain point, his gentlemanly personality becomes so blurred that only the Heisenberg identity remains. In order to understand where this dark identity is nourished from, we must look at the concept of Carl Gustav Jung. Jung says that every person carries a shadow within them. This shadow is the place where all the emotions, desires, and tendencies that an individual is forced to suppress in order to sustain their life in society, those considered unacceptable, those we are afraid to confront, reside. The more a person suppresses their emotions, the stronger the shadow becomes. And when they experience a major breaking point somewhere in their life, the shadow emerges uncontrollably. Throughout his life, Walter suppressed his emotions and desires in order not to confront his shadow face to face. He played the role of a responsible father, an obedient husband, a patient teacher within society, but behind his personality, the desire for power, arrogance, and egotistical ambitions were deeply suppressed for years. But when the breaking point arrives, when he learns that he has cancer, he stops suppressing them. He is no longer someone who has expectations imposed upon him by society. In order to remain socially compliant, he has neither the time nor the desire, and this allows his shadow, that is the Heisenberg identity, to emerge. We can even sense Walter's long-suppressed shadow in his decision to choose a dark path to leave money for his family after learning that he has cancer, even though Walter says that he entered this dark path for his family. A person who is truly gentlemanly and harmless would not even let such an idea cross their mind. For this reason, although Walter White appears at first glance to be an honest and well-intentioned person, he is far from being a good person in essence. As the series progresses, we clearly see how ruthless he can become when power and control are placed in his hands. Therefore, the conclusion that he was good at first, then he became bad, is actually mistaken. Walter was never truly a good person. He was merely harmless and cowardly, someone who posed no threat to anyone. When he learns that death is approaching and gains courage, he begins to reveal the dark, narcissistic, and self-serving ideas he had suppressed for years. But in order to better understand why this character gravitates toward his dark identity, there is one more place we must look: his potential. More precisely, his unrealized potential. Man wastes his own life when he fails to realize his own potential, says the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. According to Nietzsche, human beings have a desire to present their strong and creative sides to the world. However, for the person who suppresses this desire, who cannot recognize the potential within themselves, or who cannot put it into action, life gradually becomes meaningless and a heavy burden. Moreover, the greater a person's potential is, the stronger the pain they suffer when they fail to bring that potential into real life. When we look at Walter White's past, we see how great his potential actually was. In his youth, he contributed to research that led to a Nobel Prize. His competence in chemistry is far more than that of an ordinary high school teacher. But when we look at his life, despite this extraordinary capacity, what he has realized are disappointments. At a school where he is not even taken seriously by his students, he is wasting his knowledge and capacity. Walter being this talented and yet unable to realize his own potential is truly disturbing and painful. This is where we can understand why Walter does not leave the drug business. Drug production, even though it is a dark path, offers him the opportunity to reveal his potential. He can use his knowledge of chemistry to its fullest extent in this field. With the quality of the products he produces being recognized and sold as unique in the sector, we see that Walter realizes more of his potential in this business compared to being a high school teacher. This situation is not merely a material gain, it is the fulfillment of the respect and power he had never attained throughout his life. Thus, throughout the story, it gradually becomes clear that Walter persistently lies to both those around him and to himself. Although he tries to conceal everything he does behind the role of a self-sacrificing father and a good husband, in reality, his aim is to realize his potential and seize power and authority. Moreover, in this process, he is also taking a kind of revenge on his past filled with disappointment. Indeed, near the end of the series, he openly confesses this truth to his wife. To his wife Skylar's question, "Did you do all of this for our family?" his answer is as follows:
I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it. I was alive.
When we reach the end of the story, we can see that Walter has achieved the goals he had wanted to reach from the very beginning. Although he is transformed into someone hated by his wife and child, he's managed to leave behind a large amount of money that will be sufficient for them for decades. Throughout the story, he has overcome all the obstacles, his rivals, and the problems that stood in his way. The name Heisenberg has gained great fame and respect in the underworld. But at this point, a question arises in our minds. When we consider everything he has obtained, can we truly say that Walter won? Of course, Heisenberg has won, but Walter White has lost. Because there is a truth that the story forces us to confront. When one wins, the other loses. We can better understand the tragedy he experiences by looking at Shakespeare's story, Macbeth. The brave general Macbeth in the play, just like Walter, is a character who suppresses his dark emotions and behaves in a morally right way. But over time, in order to obtain power and authority, he tears down his moral boundaries one by one. As his victories increase, so do his losses. In the end, he becomes a king, but no one remains by his side. neither his former self, nor his loved ones, nor even himself. Moreover, with his death, the meaning of everything he gained is erased. As time passes, all his victories are forgotten, and what remains is only the story of a character who consumed himself for power and authority. We can say that Walter, just like Macbeth, rises to the level of a king. He too has realized his potential and seized power and authority. However, his pursuit of power, his ambition, and his arrogance have taken his loved ones away from him one by one. When he dies, there is not a single person he loves left around him, and years later, just like Macbeth, his victories will be forgotten, and thus the power he possessed will lose its meaning. What remains will be only a story consumed by arrogance,